Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna and welcome after a few weeks of festivities. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 4, verses 1 to 13. Vidura approaches Maitreya. Om Jnanatimivandasyā Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Datati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamala Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Govangi Vade Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bheva Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaura Vani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Desatavine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarvashastra Puyusha Sarva Vedeka Sapala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokai Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kali Dando Didaditya Shivashna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures O most pronged transfer fruit of all the Vedas O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshashavaya Te Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance to you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss, for your syllables rain pure love, God upon the reader. You always to be served by everyone, for your incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka bandhu mat sangim mad guru man mahadana man nishtaraka mad bhagya mad ananda namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadayinatini chocha taraka hanamuncha gatachin mam premna rit katayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to unsaintly, uplift to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest. Mahatma through the company and love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yathonvayaditaratascharte Swabignaswarat Tene Brahma Hidayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Swena Sadani Rastakokam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading person of every Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and prime cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, destruction, and manufacture universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. He is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of what signifies or lends in on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifest. By the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Parayana Paisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Upadrata. All in the one in this iron is your Kali many but short lives, a quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narachevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the personal Godhead Narayana, to Naran Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasa, with the author. Savai Pumsa Parodharmo Yatho Bhakti Radokshajaya Haituke Pratiyataya Mas Prasiddhiti, the supreme occupation dharma of all humanities, that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yatyusavai Ragyam Jnanam Chaya Dahitukam. When rendering devotional service unto the person of God, achieve Krishna, one immediately acquires positive knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadantidat Tattvavidas Tattvam Yajnana Madvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavantiti Sabhyati. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shushushoshadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchis Yanmahatva Vipra Punyarti Nishevana. O twice born sage, by serving those devotees completely fulfill all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity by hearing the message of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryadantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the person of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment. From the heart of the devotees, develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prasha Badreshu Nitam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasokir Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classes in the Bhagavatam, a rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome in the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the person of God, whose praise with transient song is established as an irrevocable fact. Yetavan Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Param Parapum Samante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection you in life achieve either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duties to remember the personality of God at the end of life. Akama Saravakama Va Moksha Kama Udaridi Tibrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. A person who has broad intelligence, where they be full of all material desires, without any material desires or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Bhagavatam based on the teachings of Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. All right, I think we'll skip the feedback since we've had a few weeks of holiday. Let us get to chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. So we're going to cover till text 13. The first verses 1 to 3 covers the disappearance of the Yadus. And then verses 4 to 13, Lord Krishna met Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi. Text 1. Uddhava uvacha atate tad anugnata bhaktva pitva cha varunim taya vibram sitagnana dukur duk durukteir marmapush rish shur. Thereafter, all of them, the descendant of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasadam, and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious, and bereft of knowledge, they touched the cause of each other's hearts with harsh words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In ceremonies when Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are sumptuously fed, the host partakes of the remnants of foodstuffs after the guests have given permission. So the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja formally took permission from the Brahmanas and ate the prepared foodstuffs. Kshatriyas are permitted to drink at certain occasions, so they all drank a kind of light liquor made of rice. By such drinking, they became delirious and bereft of sense, so much so that they forgot their relationship with one another and used harsh words which touched the cause of each other's hearts. Drinking is so harmful that even such a highly cultured family can become affected by intoxication and forget themselves in their drunken state. The descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja were not expected to forget themselves in this way, but by the will of the Supreme it happened, and thus they became harsh towards one another. So we have to understand that the Vrishnis and Bhoja family dynasty are not ordinary souls. And because of them being demigods and pure devotees, they are not, especially the pure devotees, they are not under the external energy. Therefore, they cannot deviate from the principles of Dharma. Just like the Supreme Lord cannot deviate from the principles of Dharma. Why? Because the Supreme Lord creates Dharma. He establishes Dharma. So that personality who establishes Dharma, why would he contradict Dharma? Similarly, the pure devotees of the Lord, they do not go against Dharma. Now, here we find that they are actually transgressing the principle of Dharma in that they are drinking and taking intoxicants. This is an act of Krishna. It is Krishna's will. We already covered in the previous chapters why. Because there is no one in creation that can destroy the dynasty of Krishna. Krishna's family members. They are under Krishna's divine protection. But by Krishna's will, this is arranged so that they can return back to the spiritual world. The lesson here that we need to imbibe and take home is that even if one is a cultured and educated family or person, if he indulges in intoxication, it will destroy his intelligence and his relationship will become harsh with others. And therefore, intoxication is dangerous. Text 2. Tesam maitreya doshena vishammikrita chetasam nimlochati ravavisid venunam iva mardanam. As by the friction of bamboos, the destruction takes place. So also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. When there is need of fire in the forest, by the will of the Supreme, it takes place due to friction among the bamboos. Similarly, the descendants of Yadus were all destroyed by the will of the Lord by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of a fire occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there was no power in the universe which could vanquish the descendants of Yadu, who were protected by the Lord. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order as indicated by the word tad anu gnata. So the Lord is winding up his pastimes, and this is how all his associates are leaving this world. Text 3. Bhagavan swatma mayaya katim tam avalokya sarasvatim upashprishyam vriksha moolam upavrishat. Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family, by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree. The above-mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after he had finished his mission of descent. They were all his sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord himself. Swatma Mayaya. The Lord's family members were either incarnations of his plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets, and thus before his departure he separated them by his internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy places of Bash. where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In a previous verse, the word anugnata, indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord, is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of his external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of his internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and the Bhojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricidal war. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on these incidents as magical performances. So the lesson is we should be cautious. When we perceive something, like if we present, here we're hearing these activities. If we're seeing the activities or we're hearing the activities and we do not have Prabhupada's guidance of understanding, we can easily conclude, just like in the movies. You see the movie, everyone's fighting, killing, and you'll see, wow, this is like amazing how great souls can transform in this way. Or we see Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's Dharmaraj. How can Dharmaraj gamble? It's like, no, man, this is not, how can he be Dharmaraj then? Or just see Bhishma Dev, he's fighting against Krishna. What's his story? So we can easily misunderstand such events, and we should be very careful of misunderstanding such events. Therefore, the pure devotee's guidance in how to see these activities. So it's very clear these activities are arranged by the internal potency. It's Krishna's arrangement. And we appreciate it like that. Just see how wonderful. The Lord is employing his internal energy within the stage of matter. Because everyone is seeing it, but what they're seeing is the interaction or the display of the internal potency, but what they're perceiving is what is in their consciousness. And we want to view the pastimes of the Lord, the pastimes of the pure devotees, the pastimes of the associates of the Lord, through the eye of scripture, Shastra Chakshu. And Srila Jiva Goswami is commenting, this is like a magical performance. The internal potency is displaying magic. Magic means that the magician is presenting an illusion. He's displaying a situation. From his perspective, he knows the reality. From the audience perspective, they are perceiving an illusion. They're perceiving something different. Text 4. Aham kokta bhagavata prapanarti harenatha badarim tvam praha hiti swakulam saji irshuna. The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrik Ashram. So Uddhava is making the point and sharing to Vidura that when he was seeing the Lord under this banyan tree, the Lord told him to go to Badrik Ashram. While at Dwarka, Uddhava was warned to avoid, so actually he got the instruction at Dwarka. While at Dwarka, Uddhava was warned to avoid the distresses which were to follow the disappearance of the Lord and the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. He was advised to proceed to Badrik Ashram because there he could associate with the devotees of Naranarayan, and in the association of devotional service, increase his eagerness for chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. Arjuna also was given instruction by the Lord what to do. So here is a wonderful lesson. The pure devotees, no doubt, they feel great separation, intense separation, burning separation when they are separated from the Lord. Just like the gopis. No doubt that is there. Why? Because of attachment, because of affection, because of love, because of that pure devotional love. That bond is strong, and therefore when there's separation, there is pain of separation. The Lord directing Uddhava that when this situation transpires, he should go to Badrik Ashram and there increase his eagerness for chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. So when the Lord leaves and that pain of separation is felt, we need to absorb ourselves in chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. When the disciple is attached to the spiritual master, and when the spiritual master leaves, then also we should increase our chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. Detachment here means from the material world. So in this way, this is how we are able to transition through that phase. We cannot avoid it. If one is in the pastimes of the Lord, you cannot avoid the aspect of separation, especially in the human-like pastimes of the Lord. It is one aspect of education that the Lord has come to teach. Service in separation, which is the highest form of service, highest form of loving service, when you serve in separation. Because it's easy to serve when the spiritual master, when the Lord is present. But to continue to serve when they are not physically in your sight, they're not physically present, that is more difficult. Because now they're not physically there to tell you or to motivate you or to encourage you or to instruct you. Now, depending on how dedicated and committed and surrendered you are to them, and thus to their instructions, you will continue even after they're not present. Because ultimately, there is no difference between the form and the personality, the form and the instructions. Prabhupada often say the Vani and Vapu are non-different. So when the form is present, you serve the form. When the form is not present, then you have to take shelter of the instructions. And therefore, to continue increasing our chanting, hearing, knowledge of the Supreme Lord, and our detachment, this is what will protect us, what will give us the strength to continue. We read in the previous chapter, Prabhupada writes, because Vidura and Uddhava, they were lamenting the Lord's separation. And Prabhupada in the purport describes that to cry for the Supreme Lord, this is the perfection of life. So one disciple, he asked Lord Govinda Maharaj that Prabhupada says the society is for crying for Krishna. But my heart is so stone like I can't cry for Krishna. There's no feeling there. It's like chanting is meant to be like a child crying for its mother. But when we're chanting, there's very, very little, at least I can speak for myself. There's no real crying sentiment there. It's more you chanting out of duty, you're chanting because you made a vow, or at least you know you want to get purified. But far from crying. It's like a child losing a toy, far from crying. So Govinda Maharaj says, yes, if you can't cry, cry that you can't cry. Now, even that is difficult, to cry that you can't cry. That's how distant we are. And then Govinda Maharaj said, and don't worry, if you can't cry, that you can't cry. When I leave, you will cry. Because that attachment is closer and stronger than Krishna. Just like we see how when Prabhupada was leaving the final lesson, the devotees, they were practically lost control, crying, howling, because of that attachment, that genuine attachment to the pure devotee. It's not a sentimental experience. It's not an intellectual attachment. They genuinely had attachment to Srila Prabhupada. So yes, this is how we can protect ourselves to continue in our service and spiritual journey, not to get distracted. 5. Tatapi tad abhipritam janan na ham arindamam prishtaton vagamam bhartu padavish leshanakshama. Yet in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama, Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of my master, of the master. So Vidura, Uddhava is telling Vidura that the Lord told him what to do, but he couldn't obey the Lord's instruction. Knowing what's transpiring, he followed the Lord. So this is attachment. We find even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Lord Nityananda he doesn't need to come to Jagannath Puri. He should carry on preaching in Bengal and other places. But Lord Nityananda couldn't follow that instruction, and he kept coming to Jagannath Puri. 6. Adraksham ekam ashinam vichinvan daitam patim Sriniketam saras vyatyam krita ketam aketanam. Thus following, I saw my patron and master Shri Krishna sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter of the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Those who are in the renounced order of life often take shelter underneath a tree. The Lord was found by Uddhava in that condition of taking shelter, as do persons who have no shelter, because he is the proprietor of everything. Everywhere is his shelter, and everywhere is under his shelter. The entire material and spiritual cosmic manifestation is sustained by him, and therefore he is the shelter of everything. So there was nothing astonishing in his taking shelter in the way of the unsheltered who are in the renounced order of life. 7. Swamavadate tam virajam prashanta runalochanam dorbis chaturbir viditam pitako shambarena cham. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his disc, by his four hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. So interesting how when Uddhava saw the Lord underneath that, or at the bank of the Saraswati, it was interesting that he saw the Lord in form. Even though we know that Krishna is two-armed. Reason he's seeing Krishna as four-armed, because Krishna is reciprocating what he's in a mood or in a relationship. So, and we know that the Lord is able to do this. We read about that in the first canto, when the Lord entered the arena of Kamsa. Each of the different groups of personalities in the arena, they saw Krishna differently according to their inner relationship with Krishna. 8. Vama Urav Adishritya Dakshinangri Saroruham Aparishtar Bhaktas Vatam Aksha Akrisham Tyakta Pipalam. The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. Although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. There's a picture of this Krishna sitting there. He's leaning against the banyan tree. So this scene is very instructive. Prabhupada explains in the purport. According to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. The Ashwatha banyan tree is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. Ashwatha means very long. It continues to live for many, many years. The Lord's legs and their energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency. And are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small or as a child. Takta Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting something. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go on into another. Just as the sun rises on one particular part of the planet, and sets on another path, but does not change its own situation. So we know in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna gives the example of this material universe as an upstam banyan tree. And this banyan tree is the smallest, meaning it's the smallest universe. So how do we know that this is the smallest universe? Here in this verse, this banyan tree is described to be a child or small, designated as a child or small, or as a new banyan tree, small banyan tree. So how do we know that our universe is the smallest? Any clues? How do we know our universe is the smallest? Any indications of how our universe is the smallest? Anyone? Stated in Srimad Bhagavatam either in a verse or purport. Close. Yes, it's definitely stated. Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's stated. And you should know, and I'm sure you all know, how we can verify that this universe is the smallest. There's the pastime that happened in Dwarka. Hint, hint, hint. Yes, Lord Brahma is the youngest with 4 heads. Very good. So we know in our universe, Lord Brahma has got 4 heads. That's the minimum. That's the smallest. So therefore, young, small banyan tree. And Krishna is leaning against it, meaning he's now leaving that banyan tree, this universe, and going to the next universe. 9. Tasmin Mahabhagavato Vaipayana Suritsaka Lokan Anucharan Siddha Asa Sada Yadruchaya. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dwapayana Vyas, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. So there's the scene. The Lord is lying, his right leg is crossed, he's leaning against the banyan tree, he's ready to leave. Uddhava is there, and it so happened that Maitreya arrives on the scene. And here, Uddhava is describing Maitreya Muni as Mahabhagavato, great devotee of the Lord. And it is also mentioned that he reaches that spot out of his own perfect accord. So he's traveling, and it so happened that he arrives at this scene. And this is very wonderful and very instructive. Let us read Prabhupada's purport. Maitreya was one of the disciples of Maharishi Parasar, the father of Vyasadeva. Thus, Vyasadeva and Maitreya were friends and mutual well-wishers. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Lord Sri Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. So, by some accident, some fortunate accident, it just happened, he's not meant to be there. but by some accident, he happens to be there. Now we know nothing happens by accident, but such good fortune that he actually is meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. So even though Uddhava was describing Maitreya Muni as a Mahabhagavat, Prabhupada is saying he was not a pure devotee. So the question is, why did Maitreya Muni, why did Uddhava describe Maitreya Muni as a pure devotee of the Lord? Think of that and see if you could answer that question while I continue reading. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to a Gyata Sukriti or some unknown devotional service. Pure devotees always engage in pure devotional activities, and therefore their meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is due to the unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service. If you are pure, you can see the Lord. If you see the Lord and you're not pure, understand it is due to some unknown devotional service you did. That is why we should not underestimate the power of devotional service. Even unknowingly performed, it has great potency. Uddhava will continue to describe why or what happened to Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni was a philosopher, Jnani. He had perfected the Jnana path. He wasn't a pure devotee. So he wasn't, he was more on the impersonal path, the Jnana path, but definitely not a pure devotee. So the question is, why did Uddhava refer to Maitreya Muni as a Mahabhagavat? In this verse, he says, Tasmin Mahabhagavato, a great devotee of the Lord. Okay. Give some thought. Let's 10. So here we're hearing more about Maitreya Muni. Tasyanu Raktasya Muner Mukunda Mramodha Bhagavanata Kandarasya Ashrinvato Mam Anugraha Hasam Samikshaya Vishramayan Uvacha. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. So now the Lord is speaking. Although both Uddhava and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhava because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. A Jnana Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with the monastic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. So the Lord does not reciprocate according to fruitive activities, according to externally what you produce in terms of results. The Lord does not reciprocate with just philosophical knowledge that you may have, but the love that you have. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for monistic knowledge or fruitive activities. The gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus he became their heart and soul. The gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme. Herein, the Lord's attitude towards Uddhava was more intimate than towards Maitreya. So the Lord speaks to Uddhava, focuses his attention on Uddhava, looks at Uddhava and speaking. Maitreya Muni is watching and looking at all this. 11. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha. Now, the Lord speaks and makes a very profound statement to Uddhava, which is a very great lesson for us. Please hear. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha. Vedaham antar manasip shitam te dadami yattad durava pam anya satre pura vishvasrajam vasunam matsidi kamena vasho tvayeshta. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expending the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. So Uddhava was actually a Vasu in his previous life, many days, many years ago. Prabhupada in the purport says, Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of the Lord. And a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of yore. The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary systems who are responsible for management of the universal affairs performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals in life. At that time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because he is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the superconsciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the superconsciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity as partial consciousness forgets incidents of his past life, but the superconsciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Yaya tamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham 4:11. Sarvasya chaham ridisani vishto matas smriti gnanapohanam cha 15:15. Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man proposes, God disposes. In the days of yore, When the demigods and Vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava, as one of the Vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy in empiric philosophical speculation of fruitive activities. Such persons have practically no information of the fact about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association with the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. So two things, two aspects, two wonderful situations are transpiring here. One is the Lord is telling Uddhava who he was in one of his previous lives and why he's getting this good fortune of becoming an associate of the Lord and having the association of the Lord is because he had desired it. Therefore, it is very important that when we come in front of the deities, when we are praying to the devotees of the Lord, when we praying to the disciplic succession, our Guru Parampara, that we offer our prayer, our desire of devotional life or in devotional life. We offer prayers to become purified. We offer prayers to become pure devotees. We offer prayers to engage in pure devotional service. We offer prayers to become eternal servant of the Lord. We offer prayers to be an associate of Srila Prabhupada and help him in his pastimes. We offer prayers to be an associate of Lord Chaitanya during his pastimes. We see the beautiful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Because when we offer these prayers, the Lord in our heart is noticing, just as he noticed Uddhava's prayer. And one day, the Lord will fulfill that desire just as he's fulfilling Uddhava's desire. Therefore, we should not stop praying. Constantly continue. Just like we are praying when we're chanting Hare Krishna, oh Lord, oh Energy Lord, please engage me in your service. The Lord will note that prayer. And we're repeating it again and again and again. It is no ordinary activity. And Maitreya Muni, while he's there and he's listening to this, that wow, to have the association of Lord is no ordinary feat, is no ordinary thing. Immediately, it changes his heart, transforms him. 12. Sa esha sado charamo bhavanam asaditaste mad anu grahaho yat yanmam lokan raha shrijantam dishtya dat trishwan vishadanu O Uddhava, in the lotus Manilan, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who was situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam. When a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in the liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. So here Prabhupada in the verse, Lord Krishna is giving one qualification for entrance. When a person is fully conversant with the knowledge of the Lord, as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in a liberated state, he is allowed to enter into spiritual sky, where the Vaikuntha planets exist. The Lord was sitting in a lonely place, just about to disappear from the vision of the inhabitants of this universe. And Uddhava was fortunate to see him even at that time, and thus received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. The Lord is everywhere at all time, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the appearance of inhabitants, are merely the Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He is just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere without the universe. So when we expose ourselves to the knowledge of Srila Prabhupada's books, in all his books, that sum and substance of all that wisdom, all that knowledge, and the acceptance of that knowledge, and the desire to realize that knowledge, the desire to practice that knowledge, will allow us entrance into the spiritual sky. Prabhupada said, everything you need is in my books. So just the knowledge itself that Prabhupada is presenting is a ticket to the spiritual world. What to talk about realization of that knowledge? So no ordinary knowledge. This is no ordinary situation. If we consider in the verse, the Lord is saying that he spoke to Lord Brahma about his glories, which manifested in the form of the Bhagavatam. And we know that the Bhagavatam is Krishna. So we have the association of Krishna even without desiring or the qualification. How is that possible? By a fortunate incident. Just as Maitra Muni happened to be at the right time, at the right place, meeting the Supreme Lord. It was our good fortune that somehow or other we came in contact with Srila Prabhupada. Because remember, it is not necessarily true that we have been gradually progressing and now we qualified. The compassion of devotees allows them to go onto the street and perform Harinam. The compassionate of devotees allow them to go into the public to distribute Prabhupada's books. The compassionate nature of the devotees allow them to go and distribute Krishna Prasadam. So this compassionate nature of the devotee, the follower of Srila Prabhupada, follower of the Supreme Lord, will contact some soul who is not even qualified. And due to that contact, they get a Gyata Sukriti. They connect with Srila Prabhupada. It was not necessarily because they were qualified, because they had the devotional credits. That's why they're meeting devotees. No, it is the compassionate nature of the devotee to go out. Consider Jaga and Madai. It wasn't their Sukriti, devotional credits, that they met Lord Nityananda. Consider all the animals in the forest of Jharkhand. It wasn't their spiritual credits that they made Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they do not consider your piety, your Sukriti, your devotional credits. They just go and distribute the mercy. So following the footsteps, Srila Prabhupada did the same. And following in his footsteps, the followers of Srila Prabhupada do the same. They go and extend them the association in these ways of the Lord. And therefore, that process was also applicable to us. Somehow or other, we receive a book. Somehow or other, we receive prasad. Somehow or other, we invited to a temple. Somehow or other, we saw a devotee on Harinam. Somehow or other, we came in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And that triggered greater spiritual blessings to the extent that now we have the good fortune of associating with the Bhagavatam. And the education, knowledge that is in Prabhupada's books is blessing us. So we simply have to continue associating with this knowledge, not taking it lightly, but always being mindful that it is Krishna's physical appearance and presence. It is non-different from Krishna. And that we should continue to pray, just like Uddhava did in his previous life, to be an eternal, pure associate of the Lord, to serve the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Because those desires, the Lord will note. And yes, according to his own time, it may be next life, maybe the future lives, whichever life it is. When I think it was Mukunda in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was associating inappropriately with impersonal knowledge, if I recollect nicely. But the Lord did not appreciate that and did not want to see him. And he was heartbroken. And he was trying to see the Lord. And the devotees of the Lord were trying to get the Lord to see him. And no matter how hard they tried, the Lord was not happy to see him. And then one day when the devotees were trying to coerce the Lord said, he will not see me in like 1 billion lifetimes. And when Mukunda heard that, he went into ecstasy. He was outside, he heard that, and he went into ecstasy, or he was told, and he went into ecstasy. And the devotee is wondering, the Lord does want to see you, and he said he won't see him in 1 billion lifetimes. How are you? Why in ecstasy? He said, at least I will see them. Even if it's after so long, at least I will see the Lord one day. And that gave him so much ecstasy that when the news came, when they told Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this is how he reacted, the Lord was so happy. The Lord said, bring him. So our desire to see the Lord, to be with the Lord, to serve the Lord, to serve the associates of the Lord, we have to keep burning these desires in the core of our heart. 13. Puramaya proktam agnaya nabhye padme nishanaya mama disarge jnanam paramam mahima babasham yatsurayo bhagavantam vadanti. O Uddhava, looks like, give me one sec, to see that verse seems to be repeated. Okay, so it's going to text 13. Right, so the Sanskrit is correct. Okay, so it's similar verse. O Uddhava, this is text 12. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who situated a lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendent glories, which great sage describe as Srimad Bhagavatam. Then the next verse is exactly the same. O Uddhava, the lotus millennium in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, we situate in lotus that grows out of the navel, about my trans glories, which the sage described as Srimad Bhagavatam. Right, that means the Veda base needs transcendental editing. not right. So I'm gonna go to, give me one sec. Canto 3, chapter 4, verses 13. Right, text 12. So text 12 reads, I'm reading it. So it shows, so this is actually verse 13. So somehow something in the Veda base must have gone wrong. Sa esho sado chamara bhavanam. Not sure if you can see that. Yes, you can see it. Sa esho sado charamo bhavanam asaditaste mad anugrahayat yanmam nrilokam raha uchrijatan jantam drishtya drishvan vishadanu. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode by Kunta, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. Wonderful. When a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord, as far as, so the purport is the same. As far as a perfect living and liberated state is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. The Lord is sitting in lonely place, just about to disappear from the vision of the inhabitants of this universe. And Uddhava was fortunate to see him even at that time, and thus received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. The Lord is everywhere at all time, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular person's universe. He's just like the sun, and the sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises and the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere within Vaikuntha. And then text 13. Puramaya proktam ajaya nabhye padme nishanaya mamadi sarge jnanam paramam mahima vabhasham yatsurayo bhagavantam vadanti. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of creation, I spoke unto Brahma. We situated in the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendent glories, which the great sage described as Srimad Bhagavatam. Purport. The explanation of the Supreme Self as given to Brahma and already explained in the second canto of this great literature is further clarified herein. The Lord said that the concise form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained to Brahma, was meant to elucidate his personality. The impersonal explanation of those 4 verses in the second canto is nullified herewith. Sridhar Swami also explains in this connection that the same concise form of the Bhagavatam concerned the pastime of the Lord and was never meant for impersonal indulgence. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's glories and knowledge about Him is all personal. That is the point that the Lord is making. Vankarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we try to cover at least 10 to 13 verses, which we covered today. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? All right, yes. Thank you for posting that, Shamananda Prabhu. I think the database, one of either I'll need to just check my database is a little, possibly an issue with that version. Mother Lash, Hare Krishna, thank you for beautiful Krishna card. Query 1. When someone accidentally meets the Lord and doesn't recognize that Krishna is the Supreme, this also is due to accidental devotional service. Yes. It's just that you will see the Lord due to past devotional credits, but you would also reciprocate and recognize the Lord due to your attitude and growth and spiritual credits. Here we see Maitreya Muni was a Jnani, but because of the association of Uddhava and the Lord responding and reciprocating with him, just that moment, Lavamatra, just that moment's association, he could firstly appreciate the power and the great blessing that he got to meet the Lord. He could also appreciate the power of devotional service, because the Lord told Uddhava, why you're getting this? Because you desired my soul, say you engage in some devotional service. So this transformed Maitreya. Now, some may meet the Lord but not recognize the Lord. That meeting will still give them this devotional credits. There's no loss or diminution on this path. And in future, they will continue nurturing that relationship. The Lord will never, ever force the relationship. The relationship is always from your side. And the Lord will reciprocate. So he'll never force his association. If you don't appreciate and understand him, okay, next time, when you're ready. So yes. Just like even we read last week, last chapter, all the soldiers, they all got benefited by the association of the Lord. So it is no ordinary association. Question 2. Does it mean that only those born in the family of a devotee means they are performing devotional service in previous life due to mercy of a devotee in previous life? The rest of us not born in devotee family, then due to mercy of devotee in the present, we are starting to engage in devotional service. So not necessarily. Yes, if somebody is born in a devotee family, it's a continuation. But it doesn't mean that if you're not born in a devotee family, that you did not or you were not practicing your spiritual practice, or you were not a devotee in your past life or lives. We see how many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they weren't necessarily born in a devotee family, but they may have been born in a religious family. Some were brought up very religious, some not. If we see Bhakti Tirthamaj was born in a Christian family. And from small, in fact, Bhakti Tirthamaj, as a child, because his father was a pastor, and he loved to share, but he would stutter. And one day, when he had the opportunity to give a sermon, he started giving the sermon, and all of a sudden, he stopped stuttering, even as a child. Because he was in his flow, he was natural. So he was brought up like that. Others may have not been in that situation. Others were possibly just brought up in a good family. Others possibly in a bad family. But it doesn't mean that they weren't practicing in their past. When the time was right and they met Srila Prabhupada, all those spiritual credits surfaced. And you could appreciate that that was the case, that they definitely, had some spiritual credits, because they immediately just surrendered and advanced. Others, Prabhupada said, I created your good fortune. Prabhupada's blessings and Prabhupada's wishes, your balance just go automatically. No practice, nothing. So yes, you cannot say, because of this, I was doing like this, especially in the devotional arena, because it's all related to you and the Lord. We see Narad Muni giving his mercy to, all types of living entities, not necessarily because they were practicing and they're systematically growing in this devotional life. No, it is just his nature of compassion, So yes, in some cases, yes, in some cases, no. In some cases, they were practicing at a certain point, then they stopped. In other cases, they were continuing. So the Lord will make arrangements accordingly, as he says in Bhagavad Gita. We should know that the Lord will make the best situation and the best scenario for your progress, no matter what. Therefore, because of that, we have firm faith in the Lord that whatever arrangement will be made in the future for us who are practicing will always be the best, no matter what the situation is. Externally, we may see it as bad because of our upbringing, our perceptions, etc. But we should have firm faith that the Lord would make the best arrangement, and that situation is the best scenario and situation for us to now progress and take the next step. It's exactly the same thing in this life. Yes, it's our good fortune that we've met Srila Prabhupada, but that's also the Lord's arrangement, the Lord's mercy, the Lord's blessing. It couldn't have been better. Why? Because of sincerity. In Science of Self-Realization, Prabhupada writes, it is the sincerity of the devotee that allows the soul to be connected to the Lord. So we simply have to maintain the sincerity of wanting to be with the Lord, and the journey unfolds. Shamananda, thanks, Prabhu Maharaji, for nice class, helping us to go along. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Bafana, Anugnata. Ashwata does not die very quickly. Tekta Ipala. He had now finished his past in this particular small universe. Agna Bhakta, one whose devotion is mixed with monastic view, is not pure devotee. The Lord reciprocates on the basis of transcendental love, not philosophy. It's nice to come to the point where one chooses Krishna. Yes. And that's the lesson that we are receiving. Now, coming back to my question. Nobody answered my question. We read about Maitreya as a monist, as a Gyani. We heard about Uddhava as a pure devotee to such an extent that he's getting physical association, transference into Vaikuntha. Why? And Prabhupada makes it very clear that Maitreya was not a pure devotee. So why did Uddhava call Maitreya Muni a Mahabhagat? Because Mahabhagat means pure devotee. Anyone? All right. The answer is we should be very careful to judge devotees. I guess it was his humble attitude, possibly. Yes. We should be very careful to judge devotees according to their past. From this episode, we learn a lesson. Uddhava noticed Maitreya Muni also coming and getting the association of the Lord. That is no ordinary activity, no ordinary event. And because of that, because Maitreya Muni is also in the presence and association of the Lord, he is going to get the blessing. He is going to transform. And sure enough, he transforms into a Mahabhagat. So Uddhava is not seeing past. Uddhava is seeing the future of Maitreya Muni, Maitreya Rishi. And therefore he's saying Mahabhagat. Just like they asked Srila Prabhupada, how many pure devotees do you have? Prabhupada, how many devotees do I have? Prabhupada was not seeing past. He's not even seeing present. He's seeing future. This is the result. So this is why Maitreya Muni called him Mahabhagat. Because he's seeing the outcome of what's going to happen by the association of the Lord and the transformation that's going to now manifest. And therefore, we should always know that anyone that is in the shower of Krishna consciousness, anyone that is practicing Krishna consciousness, anyone that is chanting Hare Krishna, even if they have faults, we should be very careful to frame them. Do not frame any devotee. Yes, we may keep a respectful distance, but do not frame them eternally. Yeah, that person, we should be very careful. Why? Because anyone that's practicing Krishna consciousness will become pure. It is only a question of time. Just like a mango, as long as that mango is connected to it, as long as the unripe mango is connected to the tree, it's only a question of time. It will ripen. So our interaction with each other right now is like green mango. Sometimes the lower modes get in the way. And therefore we tolerate. Therefore, with patience, we continue practicing our own Krishna consciousness with greater determination, greater vigilance and sincerity. and know for certain that even those that we have a rough experience and interchange with, because they in the process of Krishna consciousness, they will also get purified and eventually they will become ripe. And when they become ripe mangoes, it's very juicy and tasty. Then the interaction is very sweet in the mode of goodness, in the mode of Sudha Sattva. So in this way, we should continue practicing. Shamananda Professor, thanks for explaining that point. We have to remember and practice that, yes. Practice, 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 practice. We have to keep reminding. And see, this episode reminded us, right? The episode will come again in some other pastime. It'll remind us. So in this way, if we keep reminding ourselves, because the flow of the modes of material nature, yes, they will cause different behavior. But we know that even those who have deviated, even those who are struggling in Krishna consciousness, if you ask them about Srila Prabhupada, they'll tell you they love Srila Prabhupada. That is the only thing that matters. That relationship with Srila Prabhupada is their saving grace. Because Prabhupada is very, very compassionate. And Prabhupada will never give them up. And the fact that they're not giving up Prabhupada means that Prabhupada has a place for them in his family. And yes, the society may or may not accept them. The members in the society may or may not accept them. The people in the world may or may not accept them. But Prabhupada will. And if Prabhupada does, Krishna does. So we should relate with everyone respectfully, but at the same time, keep in mind, what would Prabhupada want me to do? How would Prabhupada want me to reciprocate with this person? How would Prabhupada want me to have that relationship? And in this way, continue our practice of devotion service. Thank you very much. We will continue our association. And now we're going to also hear about the interaction between Maitreya and Vidura and the discussion that they had. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Kantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gopram Nande Hari Hari Bol.